Australia. 1932. The world was still reeling from the Great Depression. But in the West, a battle began. It's not against men, not against nations, but against birds. Creatures with wings, feathers, and piercing eyes. The enemy, the emu. Welcome back to Whispered Chronicles, where echoes of forgotten lore come to life. How did a modern military lose a war? To flightless birds? In the year 1932, the nation had recently emerged from the grip of the Great Depression, a time when even finding work was a victory. But now, just as things seemed to be looking up, disaster struck again. That year, a large number of emus migrated to the southwest region of Western Australia. These weren't your ordinary birds. No, these were great towering emus, nearly a meter tall, and able to kick a man off his feet with a single swipe of their powerful legs. For weeks, the emus grazed on the farmland. At first, the damage was manageable. But soon, the flocks grew larger, and so did the destruction. Within a matter of days, the emus devoured entire crops, smashed fences, and tramped down what remained, turning thousands of acres of land into a wasteland. As the farmers watched their livelihoods being wiped out before their eyes, they cried out for help. And the government, eager to appear strong in the face of the Great Depression, answered the call. It was November when Major Meredith, an Australian military officer, received orders to deal with the emu situation. He and his 27 soldiers arrived in trucks carrying 2 Lewis's machine guns, each capable of firing about 1,200 bullets a minute. Meredith saw the scale of the problem immediately. Crops had been completely wiped out in some areas. Farmers he met with were close to tears. The sight of the emaciated animals, driven to desperation by drought, did little to ease their plight. Still, the army officer felt confident. How hard could it be to defeat a bunch of birds? Within hours of arriving, his men set up 2 machine guns near a paddock where several hundred emus had gathered. As dusk settled, the birds approached, seeking food. The soldiers took aim and opened fire. The emus scattered, all except for one, an enormous male which collapsed after being hit by several bullets. Its mates let out harsh cries, but the soldiers were triumphant. Surely the rest of the birds would flee, and the crisis would be over. But the next morning, the farmers found something disturbing. The dead emu had vanished. In its place lay a pile of feathers and a few scraps of flesh. Someone had stolen the carcass during the night. Then, as if on cue, the remaining emus appeared, scratching around the spot where their comrade had been shot. To the soldiers, it looked like a funeral. The emus stayed only a few minutes, then flew away. The following days brought similar scenes. Meredith and his troops chased the emus across the countryside, killing hundreds, yet never enough to make a dent in their numbers. Everywhere they went, the soldiers heard the same story from the farmers. By the time the birds arrived, the crops were pretty much gone. They were just finishing the job. Then there were the stories of the emu general, as the farmers called him. This was the giant bird seen leading the flocks, observing from atop a small rise. The troops couldn't get a clear shot at him, and he always seemed to know when the shooting was going to start, warning the others just in time. Meredith began to doubt that he would ever win the war. The relentless sun beat down on him and his men as they sat in the back of trucks watching the endless parade of emus devouring crops. The farmers had been right. Dealing with these birds was impossible. Meredith didn't realize it at the time, but he was about to make a blunder that would make the war go down in infamy. To boost morale, Meredith decided his men needed a real challenge. He ordered them to shift to aerial gun emplacements and shoot the emus from above. So on November 2nd, 1932, the soldiers climbed aboard 2 avian biplanes and set off across the flat landscape. When they reached the nearest paddock, they banked sharply and swooped low. From below, the emus looked like a mass of brown feathers scurrying around a wide open space. The pilots opened fire, but the gun jammed almost immediately. After making a few emergency landings and several crashes, the military mission was abandoned. The birds had proven too quick and too well adapted to the terrain. The farmers shook their heads when they heard about the fiasco. From where they stood, the emus were easy targets. From the air, though, good luck to whoever tried shooting them. Yet somehow news of the disastrous attempt at aerial warfare leaked out, creating a media storm that made fun of the situation. The newspaper said the only bird droppings the soldiers were seeing were from planes flying overhead. There were articles about how the emus were winning the war, and how the ground forces had no chance against the feathery foe. Soon, people were asking if the EMU general should be declared an honorary war hero. Meredith realized he had made a mistake. Aerial warfare wasn't working, and neither was fighting from the ground. With winter approaching and the crops in peril, he knew he had to try something else. On December 10th, his last day in charge, Meredith called the farmers together, told them the army was retreating and wouldn't be coming back until spring. But in the meantime, he wanted the farmers to take matters into their own hands. Gave them a simple message from the Prime Minister: shoot as many emus as you can. If you kill an emu, bring it into town. You'll receive 10 shillings for every adult and 5 shillings for every juvenile. The farmers listened, nodded their understanding, and went home to fetch their shotguns. Soon, the sound of gunfire echoed across the plains once again. The farmers hunted the emus for the next 3 months. During that time, they collected nearly 10,000 skins, earning about £6,000 for their efforts. The emu carcasses were dumped into a mass grave east of the town. In the end, the government spent about £18,000 on the war, including the cost of the army's failed mission and the bounty paid to the farmers. Out of the 20,000 or so emus that descended on the area, fewer than half remained by late February 1933. Although the farmers had won the war, they hadn't really solved the problem. The surviving emus simply reproduced faster, and soon the population was back to normal. Eventually, the memory of the war faded from most people's minds. The incident was seen as a bit of a joke, a bizarre episode in Australian history that was more embarrassing than anything else. However, for some, the event cast a long shadow. The soldiers who had participated in the war felt humiliated and betrayed by the way they had been sent into battle without proper equipment. Meanwhile, the farmers who had lost their crops and their homes continued to suffer through the Great Depression. Today, the emu is a protected species in Australia and serves as a national symbol. Every November, people remember the events of 1932 during Emu War Day commemorations. Some historians argue the war never really happened, while others insist it was the biggest joke Australia has ever seen. Maybe both are right. Perhaps the lesson is this: when we wage war against the natural world, the Earth always finds a way to win. And somewhere in the dry fields of Western Australia, the echoes of marching emus still linger, reminding us of the day the birds won. After all, how often does a war between humans and birds make the news? This is Whispered Chronicles, keeping alive the echoes of forgotten lore. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Till next time, stay safe.